to welcome each of you back to the Dang Right, a Melissa football podcast with Coach Nally. I'm your host, Coach Nally. I want to thank Mr. Kramen and the duo of Max and Shipp for putting on this podcast. Max and Shipp are like the duo of Scooby and Shaggy, always at the right place at the right time. Our guest today is someone that I've got the opportunity to watch and be in awe of this past year. He's the man behind the scenes, the greatest of all time when it comes to hospitality services here at Melissa ISD. He's the vice president of hospitality on the booster board. It's the one and only Mr. MICHAEL Venner. Mr. Venner, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Dang right, dang right. All right, Mr. Venner, first question I always ask is, give us the life story of MICHAEL Venner.
Okay, so yeah, I've listened to many of these. So I was like, man, what is my life story? So my history, I obviously in high school, my sport of choice that I did was swimming.
Dang right.
I did swimming for 4 years. We won state my junior and senior year.
That's awesome.
I went out and probably had the sort of Rudy moment going out for my senior year. My last time I retired my Speedo.
Yeah.
Then I went to Texas A&M, got involved in more of like the film side of things, and that's where I met my wife, who is also here in the district.
Yeah, dang right.
And then I started during my super senior year, my victory lap. I started with a Cinemark, and then sort of I've been with Cinemark for 20 years, and that's of where it's let me learn how to help the district in a lot of things, because the experience I gained there has been able to help impart that wisdom to the groups here.
That's awesome, man. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school here in Dallas. I went to, in East Dallas, Bishop Lynch.
Oh, yeah, dang right, man. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, Mr. Venner, this is going to be a tough one, okay? All right, just because of the fact of, I know how all you Aggies are. Man, first off, why did you go to Texas A&M?
I don't want to say I had a girlfriend at the time, but I applied there. I enjoyed it. I went to I went to A&M and for a visit, and I just really enjoyed the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Us Aggies have a thing where you can you can't explain it, but if you're on the inside, I didn't get that right, but keep it. But yeah, no, I just enjoyed the atmosphere. And once I was there, really sort of bonded over it. My freshman year was the year that Bonfire fell.
Yeah.
And so, got really close to a lot of people really quick, and I enjoyed it. I mean, so, our boys are both seniors, and Logan, my son, he has the option of going to any school but one.
Oh no.
No, he's not going. No.
Oh man.
No. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then, man. Why are all Aggies overboard when it comes to their alma mater?
Because we love it. We go to fish camp from the very beginning, and we get just indoctrinated with all the yells and everything. And and like I said, it's just something that you can't explain looking out. But when you're on the inside, it's special. And sort of how I was my freshman year, with everything, with Bonfire falling and everything like that, it just sort of brought all of us close together. And I never thought I would feel that feeling that we felt that day at A&M when Bonfire fell, until several years later when I was still in college and 9/11 happened. And it was the same type of feel on campus where it's like we all just lost a friend. Mm-hmm. And even though it was ended up 12 people that passed away, but it was part of our brotherhood and sisterhood. Had fallen. So we're just Aggies. I mean, hey.
I was fixing to say, I know a few Aggies, and you guys, you get persecuted a lot for being an Aggie. So I was just curious about that, because I'll be honest with you, I'm part of the persecution.
I mean, we went to the SEC first, so I mean, the other ones are following us. So just saying.
Okay. Well, what inspired you to get into the movie business, man?
When I was in college, I was involved in the film society there. and also Hallie, my wife. She was involved with the Film Society. I was the president of that for a couple of years. We had a film festival, which she was in charge of, and she ran, where we'd get submissions from across the country. And we would do, cinemas on Friday night, like $1 movies for the kids, and everything like that. And it was just that atmosphere that I really enjoyed. And so then in my senior year, I was like, well, actually, sort of my parents were more like, you need to get a job. And so I was like, well, I like movies, so let's go work. And so then that's when I started at Cinemark during my senior year. And, I sort of gave it like a 5-year plan, like, hey, let's see where this goes in 5 years. And within those 5 years, I'd become, a general manager of a movie theater. And, we had started our life together.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All right, so we're talking about movies, man. What is the greatest movie of all time?
Oh, man, I knew this was going to be a question, and I never, with me being a movie guy, everyone expects, yep, what's your favorite movie? But it's sort of like, what's your favorite child? Like, you don't have one. Obviously Shawshank Redemption is way up there. Yeah,
that's a good
for
one.
Me.
Yeah.
And even though it's more recent, I guess, even though it's 5 years old now, but like Avengers Endgame is like next level for me. Just 2 days ago, I think we watched it. It was on TV, and I was like, well, I know where my next couple hours are going, because I'll watch two, spoiler alert, I'll watch 2 hours of lead up just to hear a certain character say, Avengers Assemble. And I'm like, but you got to watch the first 2 hours to get into that last part.
Yeah.
And then, whenever that person picks up a hammer and you're like, oh, so that's the end game is definitely up there, even though it's a more recent thing, but it's definitely up there. And Shawshank and sort of every genre I sort of have a favorite.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, for me, like you might hate me after this, because when I do explain this, people don't like it. I like every single Leonardo DiCaprio movie. Every single one of them are great to me. So to me, that's my tops. Shawshank Redemption is obviously a great movie. But it's weird. Like when you're watching TV, okay, and when Roadhouse is on, the Patrick Swayze Roadhouse, not the Jake Gyllenhaal Roadhouse, I'm watching that every time. Anytime a Steven Seagal movie's on, doesn't matter, I'm watching it, okay? Watching it. And, they're not the greatest of all time by any stretch of the means, but it's just one of those things when you click through and you're like, oh, yeah, this is what I'm watching. It doesn't matter. I've seen Roadhouse 9 million times, but I'm going to watch it. Well, let me ask you this, man. What is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, okay. I sort of went that way with that one. That's why I was going more Endgame with anything, just because it was a culmination of 15 years of cinematic buildup to be able to get to Endgame. So probably still be same answer.
Endgame?
Yeah. Endgame and Shawshank is sort of like one of those things where you're like put on the spot. And, me being a movie guy, everybody always asks me, but now this time I literally have a mic in my face. So it's like, Endgame. But that's probably sort of on my Mount Rushmore. Growing up, I had more like eclectic taste where I was like, Saturday Night Fever is my favorite because of the scene where John Travolta goes out there and dances.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And all of those. I will say in our house, if Pitch Perfect comes on, we're watching that. Yeah, I can pretty much do that. And then part 3, they fall off, but Pitch Perfect 2, Das Sound Machine, we're watching that. Yep, I'm gonna be hearing about that for a while. Wow, edit.
Well, my favorite movie of all time is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Okay, not the Bogus gets a little crazy, and then obviously it gets a little bit crazier after that. But Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but that's my favorite. But if any Batman, I know you're a Marvel guy, I'm a DC guy. Any Batman, man, I'm on. It's my fave. I can see Max over here. He's a DC guy too. I can tell. No, he's shaking his head. But any Batman movie I really, really like.
No, whenever I was at my theater, I have a 70 millimeter projector, so I'm one of the only ones. Like whenever Oppenheimer showed last year, I was the only one in Texas. There was only like 15 in North America that showed it in 70 millimeter IMAX. And whenever Dark Knight Rises came out, you pretty much bank on Christopher Nolan releasing a movie. It's going to be released in 70 millimeter IMAX.
That's awesome.
And so I had Dark Knight Rises, and we go a little crazy because we knew that the want would be there. So when that movie came out, we literally went 72 hours straight.
Oh,
so
wow.
We had a midnight show at 3 a.m., 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, and we only didn't sell out 2 shows.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was the 6 a.m. on Saturday and 6 a.m. on Sunday. Friday we sold out that show. But not the other 2, but they were like half full. So yeah, it was
man, that's
crazy.
amazing.
So no, I mean I'm a fan of everything. Like I like all of the genres. So I'm not necessarily Marvel. I'm a DC. I mean, just they need to make some quality. So.
Well, let me ask you this, man. As a parent, what do you love the most about Melissa Schools and the community of Melissa?
So, as a parent, and being in here, we moved to Melissa right before Logan, who is now a senior, was in kindergarten. So he's gone here, all of his 13 years, and we moved here for the schools. We never thought that necessarily we were going to be as involved in the schools as we are. With my wife, when we had our second son, she became a school nurse, and then she got her master's degree, and then she, taught the medical assisting class here, and then now she's, director of CTE and health services in Melissa. And then with me, I just got involved in the beginning, and I'm like, hey, I can be a coach.
Yeah.
And then I realized, no, I'm not good at that. Then I got involved in the PTO, and I was sort of the guy on PTO. So I get that strange look like, wait, you're a guy, you're in PTO. And I'm like, yeah, it's where I can help. And so I was, did that for 3 years. I'd like how you can get involved in any number of things and maybe take on a lot. But you can sort of use your skill set to help wherever you can. And so, that's what I love about the Melissa Schools and the growth that we've had, and we're still sort of evolving into what we are going to be. Even though we're now a 5A school, it still feels like you can walk the halls, walk the city, and know people, even though we have this amazing facility here now.
Right. And to me, that's the thing that I think that Melissa Schools have done such a great job is adapting each year. To me, I've said this multiple times, and newspapers and on this podcast and other things and whatever, but in Melissa, kids matter, and it's noticeable. People talk about the facilities, but it's also the people within the facilities. But like where we're sitting at right now, we've talked about it before on this podcast. Like, it's not just about fine arts or extracurricular and athletics or whatever the case may be. I think every kid that has an interest in something can fall onto something here at Melissa and be successful. So I think they do an unbelievable job.
Yeah,
of that.
Like with what I help out now with, I have a kid who is in at this point in his high school journey. He's in theater, he's in band, he's in HOSA. And depending on the day, I mean, who knows? But like that's mainly his foray.
Right.
But on a given day, I'll work with people with the soccer team, the football team.
Right.
We're working with student council, and it doesn't matter because you just want to help the kid, and so it's not about raising money or anything like that for the things that he's doing. It's just sort of making the community better.
Right. And we very much so appreciate you being a part of all that stuff. All right. So being in charge of a movie theater or movie theaters, what's the best part of your job?
Every week is different. Depending on the movie, it is completely different. Like this week, there's a movie coming out. Probably you can't name it. But
No.
the next week, can you maybe name the movie? But you can't say his name 3 times.
Oh yeah, dang right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so next week is Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
So, this week's going to be a little bit of a slower week, but then the following week, it's going to be ramped up to high gear. So, no 2 weeks are ever the same. Also, I get to work with sort of the same age group that I now work with at the high school.
Yeah.
And, I get to help them, train them, and then often more or less, they usually go out into the world and do their own thing. But, it's that interaction that sort of keeps me young. But I mean, I work in a movie theater, so,
Right.
and it's nice to bring home some swag to the kids. And,
Dang right.
and then you get to see that. Oh,
Yeah, dang right.
Or bring home popcorn. Usually that's the question I don't get. Hey, are you home? It's usually Hallie saying, did you bring home popcorn? Okay.
All right, so Beetlejuice is coming out. Okay, so a part of your job, man, because I know I would. Right when I would get it, I would clear out a movie theater and I would watch it. I mean, is that something that is a part of your job? Can you do that?
Not so much anymore because everything is digital, and so therefore it has a key that unlocks at a certain time. And there are certain protocols because you don't want anything to wind up on the internet and everything like that. Now, there is a certain amount of previewing that needs to occur to be able to do quality checks and things like that. And sort of a movie with Ryan Reynolds came out not too long ago. And I was like, I'm not going to work at my theater the entire weekend and have this one spoiled for me. So that one was quality checked, and it was a good thing because there was an issue. So check that box.
Yeah, dang right.
And so, but no, it's not so much anymore. Just because there are so many things that there are fail safes in place and everything like that. It's just sort of getting those pieces into place in the right spot. So therefore, when people come to the movies, they have the best experience possible, and it makes everything sort of flow as easy. And then okay, I'm going to get that, but now I'll hear certain things with that movie and I'll be like, yep, I'm going to go check out the screen on that one because I like that song. So.
Oh man. All right. Well, what was your favorite subject in school? And, I firmly believe everybody that inspires kids, has somebody there that inspired them. So what was your favorite subject? But man, what was somebody, an adult when you were a kid that inspired you?
So my favorite subject in school when I was in high school was probably psychology. And that's sort of what got me to go, because that's what I have a degree in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's why I went to A&M and got. And so I have a degree in psychology, and so I just sort of enjoyed that. I didn't say if I would have continued on with that degree, it wouldn't necessarily been the person sitting on the couch listening to you give me, all your troubles. I was like, I got my own. You can keep those. I would have gone more the industrial organizational psychology, the person who goes into a business, gets to evaluate it and work at its optimal level. When you ask who's the person that inspired you the most, honestly, I got to go way back in the Rolodex. When I was in 4th grade, I had Sister Teresa.
Yeah.
So I went to private Catholic school.
Yeah.
And she was just a really good teacher. She didn't take any slack from anybody.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be surprised if you sort of get a, I don't want to say a ruler on the head, but just sort of a little tap and a featherhead.
Yeah.
And, I still remember her saying featherhead. She didn't say it to me, but other people got it. And I just had a really good year that year. And she sort of saw some potential in me that maybe some of the other teachers prior to hadn't seen, and to sort of set me up, for success as I went on to 5th and 6th, in high school and all that jazz. So probably Sister Teresa.
That's awesome, man. I don't know if we've ever had a nun that inspired anybody on this, Max. I don't know. That's pretty awesome, though. Well, Max, what about you? Is psychology up there for you, man? Your favorite subject? No? Okay. Me neither, man.
You got to get through the okay, so you have the one where it covers all of the subjects. That's the one where it's like you're hitting like bullet points on everything. But then once you get past that class, then it gets more fun, because then you can touch on abnormal psychology, industrial organizational psychology, clinical psychology. And so then it gets, more into the adept things of that subject, whereas the other one is just sort of like bullet point. Not saying anything for our psychology program or anything like that. I'm sure it's great, but
let me ask you this, man. Okay, I see you up at Coach Kennedy Stadium and around Melissa schools all the time. all the time. Mike, man, what do you do for downtime, man? What do you do?
I don't do downtime.
All right.
I guess I sleep. There's a window in there when I sleep. It's sort of idle hands. Just want to keep going. This year, I would say it took a little bit because last year, I didn't know what I was getting into.
Right.
And then this year, sort of a little bit of like, I know what I'm getting into. Woosah. And then it took a little bit to get going, but then I thought about it more and I was like, once this starts getting going, then it's real that my son is a senior.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love him. I want all his successes. I'm happy for him, but
Yeah.
So therefore, once it got going, it's like, okay, senior, okay, and everybody says, "Oh, this passes by so quick," and I'm on the other end of that.
Right.
So therefore, I'm just like, I'm staying busy. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm working. I'm doing what around here I'll call my work. When I work for the theater, and I fully vested in that. One of my theater is one of the busiest in the country, and I'll do that. I have a great team, and then I'll come here and just sort of flip the switch and go and do all of that. And it just sort of keeps me busy, and I don't focus on, it's senior year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let me ask you this, man. So, like you said earlier, both of our boys are seniors. So, my son's graduating in December, and he's going to Mississippi State in December. So, and, it is what it is. But, I don't know about you, but I don't know if this makes me a bad parent or not, but he's probably my best friend. And, I'm not his best friend by any stretch of the means. How are you handling that? How are you handling having a senior kiddo? Because it's your oldest, and I really, really struggled with it last summer. And this summer, it's kind of just been kind of I don't know, it's just there. So let me ask you that. How are you dealing with that?
I mean, well, wait, first on the Dang Right podcast, have you had anybody cry yet? Because we're getting ready to go there.
Maybe Duke. I think Duke did.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody, we all cry with Duke. But I'm handling it. I'm seeing some of the things that he's, how busy he is, the things that he's doing, just with his schedule and things like that. And I'm like, I remember how that was, like, when out with friends, things like that. And so I remember that I was doing all of those things with my friends when I was out a lot. I wasn't, at home a lot. Obviously, he's home by curfew and all that jazz.
Right.
But he's, sort of the friends are a big portion of his life. And so I'm now seeing it from the other side, and I'm understanding, okay, I get it. And, so I'm dealing with it. And thankfully, both of us, we have, you have two younger boys. I have a little one who is like best friends with your youngest. Yep. So thankfully I'm like, well, still got that one. Okay. And so thankfully he's still, I'll get random texts from him, and he'll just be, I love you.
Oh,
and
you can't beat that.
So I'm like, okay, cool.
You can't
good.
beat that.
Yeah. Now, granted, sometimes it follows with, when are you home? I want to use the computer. Or something. I'll take it with me. But
mine usually is what's for dinner.
Yeah.
That's what I usually get.
Yeah.
Dad, what's for dinner? Dad, can we have pizza?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Thankfully, they know not to go up that tree with me. 'Cause, I'll be like, there's stuff in the fridge. Actually, for both of my boys, especially the younger one, the ramen is a food group. So I'm like, I guess you could have picked something more expensive. So that's super inexpensive. But no, I usually get the I love you, and then I'll say I love you too, and I was like, what's up? And oftentimes it'll be just, I just miss you. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, miss you too, bud. So
no, you got good boys, man. My boys would never say that to me. I would say, hey, man, I miss you, bud. And they'd be like, yeah, you're embarrassing me. Well, Mr. Venner, what's the toughest thing about running the hospitality services here at Coach Kennedale Stadium?
Oh.
Yeah, heck yeah. We got a tough one here.
I just don't know what.
It's a loaded question. I get it.
It depends on the day. It's just sort of like it don't stop.
Yeah.
Once the school year, like I got spoiled last week during the first week of the school year when I was like, there's no events.
Yeah.
Oh, I can make this. Then I made the calendar and I sent an email out to everybody and got rolling with that. And then I saw this week, and there's 6 events. So today there's volleyball. Tomorrow there is a JV game. There's also the 2 away teams that are going to be in the home stadium, and then there's also something at the middle school. And then Saturday we have obviously our big game, and so it just sort of doesn't stop. So from that aspect, it's difficult, and sometimes I have to. Last year I really had to reset my head because when I work at the theater, you have a 16-year-old or a 40-year-old come in and you train them and say, hey, this is how we make a hot dog.
Yeah.
And this is what we do. And then the next day they come back, usually. The next day they come back and they've picked up that learning. Well, here, one day I will have a group that I'll have tennis in there and I'll show them, hey, this is how we do this. Then the next event, I'll have theater and I have to restart over. So therefore, but I got better. I hope I got better at it as the year went along. And I tried to make products or offer products that were good, that the public would like, but that were easy to produce and reproduce with the smallest amount of training. Now, we're going to have new products this year at Coach Kenny Deal Stadium for the varsity games, and I'm hoping I didn't go overboard with what we're going to produce and what we're going to offer, but still make the concession stand sort of offer something new and fun for everybody. Fun in terms of I can talk concession stands all day, like you can talk football all day. And I'm like, yeah. So
well, just to let the listeners know that there was a survey out there and Mr. Venner's concession stands at Coach Kenny Deal Stadium was ranked number 1 in the state of Texas. So that's mad kudos to Mr. Venner. So
that's all volunteers. So like all of the people that work those concession stands and did everything, like that was them. Them too were, however you want to put
absolutely.
it. Like, that was
absolutely team effort, baby.
Yes.
Team effort. All right, Mr. Venner, I'm a movie buff and a TV buff, man. Who is the greatest movie character of all time? Movie character of all time. I'm going to go to TV here in a second.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Max is contemplating. I think Max has his selection in.
This is the one where you have to use the edit button. To 20 minutes later.
Right.
Character. I don't know. Maybe I'm pandering to the audience because I've listened to some of your podcast, but maybe Darth Vader?
It's got to be, right? It's got to be Vader.
Yeah.
He's got to be the greatest of all time. Max agrees. It's got to be, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great characters out there, but I think Vader's got to be the greatest character of all time.
And and I know on a previous podcast he was like your favorite villain.
Yeah.
But he does have a redemption story.
It's true.
Because he comes he comes full circle. But
true.
Just like a Marvel movie, Loki was bad, now he's good.
Right.
So the same thing. So but he has an arc to him. So But yeah, no, the character, and especially with adding the backstories, as as questionable as episode 1, 2, and 3 might have been, at least it got to see the little kid and then the the Hayden character and go from there. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, who's the greatest TV character of all time?
I'm not saying I don't watch a lot of TV, but
mine's Homer Simpson. He's got to be the greatest TV character of all time. Homer Simpson. What do you think, Max? Agreed.
Dope.
What do you think, Mike? Greatest TV? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of them. But like, I'm biased towards saying like I think Michael Scott has got to be one of the greatest TV characters of all time. I can go back when I was a kid. I really like Cheers. I thought Woody on Cheers was one of the greatest of all time. So, I mean, but that's me. I like comedies and feel good things. I'm sure there's, there's probably like the Walter character on Breaking Bad. He was pretty good. I can't remember his.
Walter White.
Walter White, yeah. That was a pretty good one. And if you can go to like Netflix series like the Peaky Blinders, the main character in Peaky Blinders, help me out. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head.
I know he was Scarecrow in Batman.
Yes, and Oppenheimer.
And he won the Oscar for Oppenheimer.
Yeah. So, but do you have anybody, Mike?
The only person that keeps going to my head, and just because people have, in terms of his mannerisms, said like, you're this dude in terms of how he acts, like his just sort of reaction to things is Ross from Friends.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just like his now not his some of his other questionable choices that he had,
Right.
but just sort of like, I will pull out a random pivot on
Yeah.
everything. So, but I Friends is sort of a go-to show for me in our house. Thankfully, we've moved on from that because my family would be like, "Oh my gosh, we're watching this again." So honestly, now it's sort of like our and for a while it was Impractical Jokers.
Yeah,
That was like a constant. Now it's pretty much we're always on the Game Show Network and watching the Family Feud.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I love
heck
Family.
yeah. Heck yeah.
Family Feud.
Oh, I just got into this show called Arrested Development, and Job. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a pretty funny show. But he is my by far my favorite character on TV right now. Job Bluth. All right, so Mr. Venner, these are very famous in my house. Very famous, Mike. Here are some would you rather questions that have literally been spoken in my house. Okay, been asked. Okay, so would you rather have the ability to talk to animals or speak every language fluently?
Talk to animals.
Absolutely. Let me ask you why.
Because they're in my house, and so I want to be able to communicate with them more effectively, and also know why they don't listen. So therefore, they can communicate back to me and be like, "Well, because you didn't open the door." So, okay.
I think animals too, but mine's for world domination.
Okay.
I think you could talk to animals, and you could go get that guy or go do that or whatever. I'd be like the super villain of the guy who talks to animals. All right,
Vader.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, this one's a big one in my house. Okay. Would you rather have to wear a Halloween costume every day or a swimsuit every day?
Halloween costume.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. Every day you can be a different character. Max is in agreement. I think Max wants to wear the swimsuit every day. I think you could be somebody different every day, and that would be cool. You're in a Halloween costume every day. You get to be somebody else. So.
I've gotten to dress up every year with my kid. Thankfully, Declan's young enough to where I can still do that with him, and I let him pick whatever he wants to be. I'm like, okay, what do you want to be? And he was like, a couple years ago, he was like, I'm going to be a skeleton.
Dang right.
I'm like, okay, cool. I know what I'm going to be. And they were like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to be a shower. They're like, what? And you get it.
Oh, yeah, Karate Kid, baby.
They don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was walking, and so I'd be walking around, and I made that shower. I made, PVC pipes with the red and white around.
Heck yeah.
And I got the jersey, taped it onto me, and I'm walking around with him, and I could sort of peek in between, and people would just sort of, of a certain age, they'd be like, huh? And then everybody more like our age, they'd walk around, and they have that look, and then they'd be,
dang right. Yeah,
can I get a picture?
Costume. Yeah, that's a good costume.
So, yeah, I really, really like that one. And then when Declan was really little, Logan and I made a Groot costume.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we put Declan in it, and that's why he won't let me make his costumes anymore, because it wasn't very movable. So he still remembers that from 3 years old. But I was that, or he was that. Logan was Star-Lord, and I was Yondu.
Oh, dang right.
And so
awesome.
I straight up blew
dang
and
right.
put on the cap and the fin, and we walked around our neighborhood, and thankfully I got Logan to be like, hey, who's your dad? I'm your dad. Or no, I'm sorry, no, edit that. And I can't get the movie quote wrong. It was what was it? I got Logan to say I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. So that was fun.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Well, I want to thank Mr. Michael Venner today for spending some time with us on the podcast. Mr. Venner, is there anything you would like to add or any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners before we conclude?
Just come out to Coach Kenny Deal Stadium and let's have some fun. I like the scores to be as high as possible on the Melissa side, because that's when the concession stands are the busiest. The game is out of hand, and they're going to come and buy all the food and make money, because that's the thing. The money that we make at the concession stands from the volunteers goes back to the kids that are working that night, and that's why I sort of volunteer the way I do because
That's awesome.
so the kids can make the money back. So
That's awesome.
But also be nice to the volunteers because they literally got thrown into it. So
Well, thank you for listening to the Dang Right podcast with Coach Nally. Thank you to our guest, Mr. Venner, and thank you to Mr. Kramen and his students for putting this podcast together. Have a great week, and it's always a great day to be a Cardinal.